Right, well, bugger, this might actually end up being a part three, mainly because I've just turned around and realised that the phone that I was recording on is dead. But anyway, this is the battery Alive O, and I've woken it up with my power supply because I'm still scared of inrush current and things like that. So I had that set to 52.5 volts, and I had 52.5 volts up there. But I'm not reading any battery voltage. I've been through the settings. That ain't going to focus on shit. I've been through the settings so far a couple. I tried the obvious. Oh, I hate fucking everything. Wants a password. You just leave it alone, will you? Battery parameter. Battery type. See, I've tried the pylon. No go. The default is the one that I just get alarms on with the 070 alarm. I've just tried the general, and that's a big fucking 0 as well. So I've got to go through all their 7, 8, 9 choices there, and choices of whatever's on the BMS. So I told you I would have made the wrong decision, and I should have gone for a not so the begins with an S. Come on, people. The BMS that begins with an S. It's not so far. Set Plus. See, I told you, a 50-50 chance, and I should have gone for the Set Plus. So I'm going to try and change the protocol on that from Pylon Tech to a more generic one. But the other phone that isn't too heavy for the phone mount is on charge. I've got a trusty old Samsung Galaxy, and that's about it. I ain't got 2 pairs of hands, and it's going to be lots of guesswork and lots of swearing, so I'll be back if and when I get a result. Ugh. It's a shit fest, man. Deary me. Right. Oh, I'm a bit of a retard, and I don't understand quite exactly what's going on. But anyway, I was having a right mad fucking panic there to try and find a language that it would talk. And dipshit here did not have the charge and discharge MOSFETs turned on, because I must have been verifying the wrong bloody password or something. I don't know. I could have sworn I turned them on. But anyway, what I do not understand, and it pickles my fucking shit, is I've been all through these settings, and I got to the default lead acid, and that is when the penny dropped about the charge and discharge MOSFET switches, which I turned on, and I was expecting an alarm. I was expecting, because it's the same as before as the lead acid battery manual settings, I was expecting the 70 alarm that I was getting, but at the moment we're charging with 0.5 kilowatt, making a little bit of solar out of this string. We'll be making a little bit of solar out of the house roof, and minus whatever we're using, because it's a little bit cloudy and that out there. So we are actually charging with a little bit into said naughty little crappers. Oh, look at the state of that. So if somebody could let me in the comments down below, ignoring that I had the charge and discharge MOSFETs turned off on the BMS. I am now in advanced settings. Oh, this pickles, which boils my piss, this does. So the battery parameter, battery type, I'm on the default, which is the default lead acid that I had all the bother with these. The only difference is the inputted capacities. Battery capacity, what does it think it is? So the battery capacity is still, well, yeah, so that might be the only thing, is that battery capacity is well up at the 2000 ampere hours, but in reality this is 73. So whether or not it's a thing, something to do with the internal resistance, and all that shit. Let's see if it alarms out. No, it has not alarmed out. Right, so the battery capacity might have anything to do with it. What do? Do I keep on poking and going for communications, or do I let sleeping dogs lie? Answers in the postcard below. Answers in a postcard below. Really, I should get it communicating properly with the JK BMS. But it's doing something and it's not alarming out. But it's in the default settings down below. So I'll go back through it and try all the pylon tech protocols and things like that again, because it helps if the dip switches are on, you dipshit. Amateur hour at the YouTube. So this is like going to be part 3, because as I said, I turned around and looked and the other phone had died. So back to the other mobile phone. So this will end up probably being a part 3, just because I haven't got the editing skills to glue them all together from different devices. It's doing something, and it's running, and it's charging. So really, we need to do a kettle test. Because at the moment, this is generating not much. 250 watts, this is generating 300 and a bit going into the battery. And a little sniff going out to the grid. What I have got to check is I've got to check the hot water diverter box doesn't upset everything. The grid house roofy shit, that's already on. And previously, when I tried to wake it all up, I had completely turned off Big Blue and isolated it from the battery pack, and I completely isolated it from the roof. The house roof was completely turned on, so it was standalone, no interference at all with the big battery shelf. The only difference is capacity and internal resistance and shit. But I've just fiddled with the capacity down to the actual 73 that this takes, and didn't make any difference. So I don't know. Time to go and do the kettle test. I honestly can't believe myself that I got halfway through. I got halfway through the battery type selection list on this doodah, which is the default lead acid settings I was having all the bother with before. Then the penny dropped because that was showing 0 voltage and I was getting no alarms whatsoever, and the penny dropped that I didn't actually turn the charge and discharge off. I didn't turn on the charge and discharge. I had done previously, but then I'd faffed about with the modifying password trying to get rid of the alarm, and I forgot to double check and make sure that these were turned on. So the penny dropped with an almighty clang, and I've turned them on, and immediately we were showing battery and battery voltage. No alarms, nothing. It was charging, and we've just done a quick kettle test only by watching the house electricity meter, and the export light and the consumption light wasn't doing a disco. So this was covering the kettle and the coffee maker, and we're back to charging 17 amps. So it'll be interesting to see what the default settings will do on the old JKBMS. Shadows are terrible, I do apologise. So I'll use and abuse these ones and pop them with the wrong settings, and we'll see what the default settings do, because apart from the temperatures, the default settings look reasonable, pretty good, and these need to run in a higher state of charge anyway to get the best out of them, or get anything out of them. What is good is we are charging with more than this inverter is producing, so that's taken from the house grid tied as well, so we're snatching everything. Before we bought this, there's an ES and an EP version. We were going to get the ES, which was a couple of £100 cheaper, but there we explained the situation where we've got multiple grid tied solar plus future wind turbines and things like that. They turned around and said, you need the EP version for that to be able to snatch everything, and it looks like that's correct. We're making 500, charging with 950. And that's about right for that sort of sky. So I'm in a sticky wicket where I'm actually quietly content that nothing's gone on Flomley. No magic smoke has come out. That's working, but as a default lead acid that I've had all the bother with, I know if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The only reasons that I've got that it didn't like the big battery shelf would be internal resistance between the worn out little cells and a mahoosive battery bank that soaks absolutely everything up. So I still need to transplant this BMS onto the big battery shelf, but so that means that I still need to work on the communication between the two of them. But to be honest with you, I was getting quite stressed and quite sicky earlier going through half of the list of the protocols on that and the inverter and the BMS. just for the penny to drop that it's a dipshit here. So I'm going to see how the battery pack and the default settings and whatever run until tomorrow, because I also want to go out and do other shit this afternoon. So thanks, we're at 96% state of charge. I'm still poking in quite a bit, which would be good because we should be up quite high with individual cell voltages. I've got to get used to this layout. I don't know where's the individual cell voltage, 3.36, so the balancer's nowhere near being turned on yet. But we're only gently trickle charging with not much, so it's a pretty good day for it where it's not booming and out of control. Yeah. Thanks for putting up with my waffles. This is to be continued because it still ain't right, but it's working, and I don't know why it's working. And we'll leave it at that. Have yourselves a lovely weekend. Hopefully the weather improves and the sun shines, and get out in the garden. Have a wee break from this crap. Need to go on gardening leave. Decisions. I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, but just I'm confused as you lot probably are, and we'll leave it at that. Have a good weekend. Look after yourselves. Bye bye for now. It's me again. Progress report. Ooh la la. Yeah. Right, the hot water diverter box does indeed interfere with proceedings, but there's a setting there that's a minimum power cut in that I've tweaked in. We are charging with 1.6 kilowatts and we're generating 2.5. So that's looking tickety-boo. There's a bit going out to the grid, so the hot water is doing a little bit of its thing whilst we're charging batteries. So that's quite good. And the battery state of charge, pushing it right the way up there. Try and get so you can see it clearer without reflections. 55.7 volts. Cell deviation 78 millivolts. So the balancer's cut in and doing its thing, working hard. These litho collars haven't been run for absolutely ages. Ages. They've not run. And they've just been sat there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the high and low states of charge, and that is easier to achieve with a small battery pack than it is the big battery shelf. So I'm just monitoring, and I'll tidy up and put away. Monitor. It is now 2:05 in the afternoon. There we go, 2:05 in the afternoon. So cell deviation is getting up there. The balancer's doing its thing, but the cell voltages are well up there. And she's taking it like a good one. So at the moment we're looking at, with the capacity of these things, of 70 ampere hours, call it. So quite a high C rate on these as well. I have seen higher than the 26 amps. So I don't know what else to say apart from hooray, breathe a sigh of relief. And there's a good sign as well, is that we're making 700 watts of solar from the Gumtree Special panels, but we're charging with 1.4 kilowatts. So that's taking off of the roof as well. So there's some convenient cloudy spells out there, but it's still nice and bright and sunny. So the hot water diverter box, I've raised the minimum cut-in power. It was from down at like 50 watts, so I've raised it up to 1500 watts. So we'll just get that dialed in to strike a balance between getting hot water and battery charge. Whereas to start off with, it wasn't, the hot water wasn't doing anything, and then we had a sunny spell, the hot water kicked in, and we ended up into a feedback loop of where the batteries were actually doing the hot water. So I upped the minimum start power on the hot water diverter box, and that seems to have cured it. Because let's be honest with you, anything down low in the wattages won't run an immersion heater. So once we get to a certain cut-in point, it should cut in, and it seems to be cutting in and cutting off again. And we're not into a feedback loop like I was, so there's not much else I can do or say, really. I'm just going to keep an eye on what happens to the batteries and inverter when I reach the maximum voltages. Happy days. I forgot to say, old Big Blue, she's on half power at the moment because the stringer that's on the workshop roof is now plumbed into the sofa. So she's on half power now, and is doing nicely in the sunny spells. We are up to 61% on that side. And 73 on that side, but the voltages are always matched, but the percentages and the remaining capacities, when I spend prolonged periods of time in the 30 to 50% range, they drift apart, and then when they get charged, they join up nice and closely together. So we've got, I don't know why we would have 2.8 kilowatts of solar being generated, charging with only 1, so the hot water's taken its share, I would say. Nice sunny spell. Cell deviation's getting up there now, 98 millivolts. Excuse the shadows. 98 millivolts. Nothing's gone into overcell protection yet, which is at 3.6. Just erring on the little bit of side of the caution. So, according to the old guessometer, we're nearly fully charged. 100% remaining capacity, 73%. That was good timing. 73 ampere hours, 100%. So that was good timing, but we're still going. So the old guessometer will probably calibrate and dial itself in. Highest and lowest cells. So they're getting a good charge the last hour or so. Really getting a good charge now. Here comes a right nice sunny spell, and just holding at the 16 amps as well. So either the hot water's doing its thing, or this thing's approaching some sort of float voltage and a higher state of charge and turning itself down. I would think it's the hot water that's doing its thing, so that'll be a good thing if we share the high peak loads between the two, charging and hot water. So we're getting there. Be nice to get out of a bench testing phase, but for the next few days I'm just going to leave it alone and let it run and see what happens and get dialed in. Oh, look at that. Oh, oh, burny wornies. Don't look at the sun and you burn your eyeballs. So it's been good having convenient clouds so we can run in and do a hot water test and the kettle test, and then cloudy spells and sunny spells. So yeah, I think it's going to be turning itself down because Big Blue's spanking it in. There's 2 kilowatts of solar, 2.2, 2.5. Nice sunny spell. What was the requested charge voltage? $55.9. $55.9 is the battery voltage it's reading. 55.82, so very close to it. So this thing's throttling down now, I would say. I'll try and show you again because too far away. Sorry, an amateur. So the max charge voltage 55.9. And we're at 55.9. Grid voltage is quite high, 247 volts. So that's shouting quite loudly. And there we are, 55.8. So I think we're slowing down and floating. So, that's going to take some charging now with that shelf. Alrighty then. We will call that a almighty success. Still got to figure out the communication and why it is still, well, why it is now working with default lead acid settings. That's a mystery. Oh, beautiful. Bye bye for now. Look after yourselves. A nice, convenient, gloomy spell to end on. So this is the Gumtree Specials workshop roof solar panels, making 200 watts, and we've got 400 watts being charged into the batteries. So it's taking what the grid-tight house roof is making, which is exactly what we wanted. upgrade one thing but save everything that's generated from other sources with the wind turbines to come. Awesome.